So in this video we will study about what are the inorganic compounds present in the living organisms. If we observe the acid soluble pool, this acid soluble pool that consists of several inorganic compounds like sulfur, phosphate, etc. And in the living organism, not only this sulfur and phosphate, some other inorganic compounds are also, inorganic elements are also present. What are the inorganic elements? Sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium, water and other compounds. If we see the sodium, what is its function? The sodium, it is helpful in the regulation of osmoregulation and also for generation of the action potential. It is important. And the potassium, what is the function of the potassium? For the opening of the stomata. And if we see the calcium, the function of the calcium is for the generation of nerve impulse and also for the muscle contraction. This calcium is necessary. And the magnesium, magnesium is present in the chlorophyll, and for the nitrogen fixation, nitrogenase enzyme is required, right? For that also magnesium is necessary. And also during protein synthesis, for the ribosome subunit, for the joining of those subunits, magnesium is important. And water, water is the major element present in the body of the living organism. And compounds like sodium chloride, calcium carbonate, phosphates and sulfates are present. We know the calcium is present in the body, like in the bones, in the enamel, dentin, all made up of calcium carbonate only. A phosphate and sulfate, they were present in the nucleic acids, in the nucleotides they were present. And now, from the biological point of view, if we want to classify the living organism, we have two classes. If we study in the chemical point of view, we have like aldehydes, ketones, aromatic compounds, all are present, but we need to study according to the biological point of view. As per the biological point of view, the biomolecules are of two types. They were micromolecules and macromolecules. The micromolecules are also called as biomicromolecules, and the macromolecules are also called as biomacromolecules. And this biomicromolecules, they were present in the acid soluble pool. So whatever the filtrate is present, right, what we are calling it as acid soluble pool. That acid soluble pool consists of micromolecules, whereas in the remnant part in the acid insoluble pool, all the macromolecules were present. And here, if we see examples for these macromolecules and micromolecules, the micromolecules examples are amino acids, simple sugars and nucleotides. And whereas the macromolecules examples are polysaccharides, proteins and nucleic acids. If we see the polysaccharides, several simple sugars, they form the polysaccharide, right? And if we see amino acids, several amino acids, they form the proteins. And nucleotides, several nucleotides, they join and form the nucleic acids like DNA and RNA. That means the subunits are nothing but micromolecules. The macromolecules, their subunits are the micromolecules only. And here, as per the molecular weight, if you see them, the micromolecules, they have the molecular weight in the range of 18 to 800 daltons only, whereas the macromolecules, they have 10,000 and above dalton weights. These compounds, they consist of 10,000 and above dalton's molecular weight containing compounds. All will come under the macromolecules. But we have four types of macromolecules as per the separation process. What are they? Polysaccharides, proteins and nucleic acid. Along with these nucleic acid, the fourth compound is lipids, will also come under the biomacromolecules. But this lipids consists of only 800 daltons molecular weight. As per the molecular weight, we need to keep these lipids in the biomicromolecules, but we are keeping them as macromolecules because during the lysis process, during the cell lysis, the cell membrane and other membrane, they consist of lipids, right? So they broken, and during the brokerage, The lipids form in the form of vesicle. They were water insoluble vesicles are formed, which will come to the which will after filtration they will come to the remaining part because they were water insoluble. So, during the separation process, they will come to the remnant part, not to the filtrate part. That is why we are studying here in the macromolecules. So, but the lipids are not strictly the biomolecules. As per the molecular weight, we need to study within the micromolecules only. The acid soluble pool that represents the cytoplasmic composition without cell organelles, whereas acid insoluble pool that represents the macromolecules of the cytoplasm along with cell organelles will be present. So this is about the classification of biomolecules, and in the next we'll study about primary and secondary metabolites. In this video, we will study about primary and secondary metabolites released by the living organisms. So, what are primary metabolites? In the living organisms, there are several organic compounds like amino acids, sugars, chlorophyll, heme, etc. was released by the living organisms. And these are basic, these substances are involved in the primary metabolism or basic metabolic process like photosynthesis, respiration, protein and lipid metabolism. So those compounds which are directly involved in the basic process or basic metabolic process of the living organisms or the basic physiological process of the living organism are called as primary metabolites. What are primary metabolites? The compounds which have the direct role in the basic physiological process like photosynthesis, respiration, protein and lipid metabolism of the living organism, and which helpful for the growth and development of that living organism are called as primary metabolites. But some plants, some fungi and various microorganisms, they produce other compounds which are not involved in the primary metabolism. Here primary metabolism, what it is doing, it helpful in the growth and development of the living organism. It helpful in the primary metabolic process, basic metabolic process of the living organism, right? Here, but some living organisms, they produce some different compounds which are not involved in the growth and development, that is primary metabolism of the living organisms. That is, they do not have direct function in the growth and development. And those compounds which are not helpful for the growth and the development of the living organisms are called secondary metabolites. Secondary metabolites. Here, the primary metabolites, they play a identifiable or known role. They play a role which in the direct physiological process of the living organisms. Whereas secondary metabolites, they play a role. They also play a role, but that role was not understood. And but they were but those compounds are useful for the human beings, and those secondary metabolites we are extracting and we are using in several ways in making rubber, drugs, several pigments, perfumes, spices and etc. In all these are we are using these compounds. Some secondary metabolites, they have ecological importance. For example, if we take some cyanobacteria, these cyanobacteria, they may grow in several lakes and also in several fields also they will grow. During the growth, they produce several secondary metabolites. Those secondary metabolites are toxic to other living organisms. The toxic substance are the secondary metabolites produced from the cyanobacteria are called as cyanotoxin. This cyanotoxin kill the weed plants present in the fields and also weed plants present in the lakes, and at the same time insects also killed by this cyanotoxin. Hence it is a herbicide and insecticide. Side means killing. Here herbicide means it kill the plants or weed plants. Insecticide means it kill the insects. Like this it will be helpful for the maintenance of the balance in the insects and weed plants. So this is about primary and secondary metabolites. Now we will see the examples of several secondary metabolites. This is very important. The names examples are very important. These are the several secondary metabolites and these are the examples for those. Several pigments like carotenoids and anthocyanins, etc. Alkaloids are produced which are the morphine and codeine. And terpenoids like monoterpenes and diterpenes, essential oils like lemongrass oil, toxins like heparin and resin, and lectins like concanavalin A, drugs like vinblastine and curcumin, polymeric substances like rubber, gums, cellulose, etc. are the some of the secondary metabolites and their examples. This table is very important as per the need point of view. These are the several secondary metabolites produced by several living organisms. So primary metabolites, they have the direct role in the growth and development of the living organisms, whereas the secondary metabolites, they do not have identifiable role in the growth and development, but those secondary metabolites are used by the human beings. So this is about primary and secondary metabolites. The next video we will start the carbohydrates.